Morning, everyone. Friday, February 20th, 2026. I'm going to go to Arizona tomorrow. I'm going to go see Three Dog Night at the Finley Center in Prescott. Well, those guys are old, huh? Talking about old, my father and my mom, I'm going to talk about them for a minute. I have five brothers and sisters, uh, two sisters and three brothers. I was number four of the I was number four of the bunch. So my sister, then my two brothers, and me, then my younger brother, then my little sister. But anyway, talking about my mom, my dad. My dad was born in 1917. He lived through the Depression. Um, he lived through Prohibition too. My grandma was busted by LAPD during Prohibition for making bathtub gin. My dad told me that he was coming home from school one day, and the LAPD was taking grandma to jail. You know, and I guess grandma and grandpa they didn't. Back then, divorce I guess was kind of frowned upon, but grandpa did his own thing and he took off. He's buried down in Santa Ana. Grandma's buried up in Glendale. Um, but my mom was born on a farm in Texas, and I guess that during the autumn or spring, summer. Let's see, spring, summer, then autumn. Yeah, autumn. That's when they picked all the crops, and they would pull them out of school to you know that's why all these farmers had all these kids because it was help. It was hire. It was the hired help. You just feed them, and it was cheap labor. But that was then. Now today, and my dad, he became a Catholic to marry my mom. They met during the war. She was Rosie the Riveter. She was working in Dallas, and her sister was working up in Marysville, California. I said, hey, you got to come out here, and she got her waitress job at a cafe, and that's where she met my dad. And they got married in High Hill, Texas. Um, and they took the bus to go. It was tough. Now you just get on an airplane and you're there. You could be anywhere in a couple hours. But anyway, getting back to then and now. Oh, there's my hat. It's messed up. This is the one that Henry chewed up, right there. Little fricker. Oh, they're over there kicking back. But anyway, getting back to the business at end. My dad. My dad worked at the great A&P, and he used to take us to work, and growing up in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, um, it was like really like the Wonder Years. I talked about this before. Uh, but they did the best they could. And I think I'm pretty blessed. And I was sitting here earlier this morning watching the news, and um, it's a lot different from my generation to my kids' generations and my parents' generation. Uh, my mom or my parents, they didn't have social media. The people used to come over and they'd have canasta on Monday night with Uncle Roy and Aunt Edna, and or they would go to other aunts and uncles' houses, and you know on different days, and did stuff like that. And my mom, she worked when we were kids, as a waitress, and she'd work at night at the T&J restaurant, and my dad, he'd come home, and my mom would have most of the dinner ready, and she. That's how all learned how to cook, and we all had chores. We all had chores. Do kids have chores today? Come on. I mean, are you guys cleaning the house, cleaning the toilet, or you just expect that this is a holiday inn? You know, um, um, how does that work? I know we always had chores. If I get a little riled because I don't see like the grandkids doing chores. And it kind of bothers me. Well, it kind of it does bother me. You know, and 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 I pay my grandkids to work around the house. I pay my grandson to rake some leaves. And he says, "Well, how much?" And I said, "Well, it depends how you do your job." And he wanted to know he was going to get a big payday. So. Um, I know when I went to work for my dad, I got like $1 a day, and plus we went to lunch together. That was, I look forward to lunch, that's for sure, because I get a bottle of Coke with my lunch, and I thought I was styling. That was badass, man. I was, come home with $1 and, that was pretty good, you know. And then we all had, our little things like during the summer. Um, me and the neighbor across the street, the kid, I forget his name. I'll remember it later after the video's done. But we would, hook up the lawnmower, tie it to our bicycles, and ride, all around town and mow lawns for, $5 a lawn. Have a gallon of gas, 35 cents for a gallon of gas or 25 cents, whatever it was, and we were rich. We had a lot of money, $5, you could buy a lot of popsicles and Cokes and candy bars, but today's a lot different, than it was back then. And if we could only go backwards, just a little bit, we don't have to go all the way backwards. And we still want to have running water and, toilet paper and all that stuff, toothbrush and all that, Well, I'm going to Arizona tomorrow to see Three Dog Night, and my brother and my sister-in-law will be there. They're going out there right now. Em will be home tomorrow morning. And so when I'm leaving, she's coming in, and then I'll come back on Monday or Tuesday. And my brothers, they're still in their house, so I'm going to help them. Anyway, God bless everybody. Do something for somebody else for fun and for free because you want to. And don't leave your hat laying around because the dogs will chew it up. Thank you, Henry. Yeah, he wagged his ears. Talk to you. Bye.